And this is England, or to be more precise, Sherwood Forest, at least Q's recreation of it.
That would explain these costumes.
These shitty costumes.
I protest. I am not a merry man.
That's a good line.
I have you at last, Robin Hood.
And the stupid makeup and wear the stupid outfit. I'll kill you!
Chad, have you ever heard of the Wharf effect?
Quick, into the forest!
Quick, before they realized they could throw their arrows harder than those toy bows propelled them. Jeez, what's the draw weight on that? Like half a pound? They're not even pulling it all the way back. Boo! Boo!
Boo! Boo!
This has been Impromptu Kim's Corner. Q arrives to explain the situation. Well, first of all, Robin Hood is doing gangbusters in the theater right now. And only the most pathetic people would pander with something from Robin Hood. Indeed.
Fine. Stay here and do nothing. By midday tomorrow, your crew will be safely aboard their ship. Of course, you will have to accept the consequences of your inaction.
Ha. See, John Delancey is here. What fantasy show would give us John Delancey?
Makes sense. Oh, what fun is there in making sense?
Besides that,
I learned long ago that the only reliable human trait is lust for power.
besides that,
What is the one thing that Robin Hood is most famous for?
He robs from the rich and gives to the poor.
Besides that?
Perhaps you are referring to the rescue of Maid Marian from Nottingham Castle.
Yes, Data.
Yeah, so famous that Maid Marian as a character doesn't even appear in the earliest versions of the legend.
we needed to sex up the story. It was either her or that anonymous crewman from earlier. I'd like to think you made the right choice.
Q, I ask you to put an end to this before someone gets hurt.
Oh, that's impossible. You see, I've given this fantasy, as you call it, a life of its own.
Yes, the horse represents the audience from the first half of this episode.
If you dare come to Nottingham Castle, blood will be spilled.
Oh, you'll wear yourself out with all that pacing, milady. I told you to stop calling me that. The name's Vosh. Oh, my poor lamb. You've got a brain sickness for sure.
I'm afraid it might be the rising and butt flu again, milady.
But I have some nice fresh leeches. To drain the fever out.
You just had that right there?
Well, who doesn't have an emergency box of leeches?
Well, you no, yes, you do. Well, I don't... Oh, well, except for this one. Okay, you win this round.
Will you marry me? Then the execution will proceed as scheduled.
Sir Guy, wait a minute. Couldn't we talk this over?
I do like this subversion. Usually the I'd rather die than marry this man comes in, and yet Vosh, ever the pragmatist, simply says, you're okay.
You object to losing your head?
Yes, I like it where it is.
Sorry.
Again. Thank you, Wolf. You're really making this a good episode.
Data!
Oh man, with Troy's form, Data must be like, I don't know, 18 inches away. I'm surprised that thing left the bow horizontally and not just dropped out the side.
Would you just like to do a whole archery video? Get it out of your system?
Maybe.
Q learns about Vosh's pragmatism and is impressed with how unusual she is.
All of Nottingham knows you're still in love with him.
Silence! Any more impudence and it'll be your hair on the block.
You fool! You cannot threaten a Q without a 19th century musket.
Those aren't muskets.
Okay, which Robin Hood are we parodying here? Because look at this. That can't be an accident.
So Picard goes to Nottingham Castle to rescue Vosh, and they get into a bickering argument. They do this always.
But apparently the sex is pretty hot. I mean, well, literally hot. You run quite a temperature on the rising and butt flu.
Always.
Wrong. Rickman.
There. After this mutually assured idiocy, Vash captures Picard for Sir Guy.
You should have left while you had the chance.
You want me to go to Sherwood Forest at this time of night?
You'll leave immediately.
But it's dark.
I see Nottingham also has a Counselor Troy.
They're like carpenter ants. But of course, Vash is actually trying to notify Riker and get them to come rescue Picard. Q discovers this and has her arrested as well. Don't do it, Kim. Don't do it. I'm begging you.
Dona eis requiem.
That's it. I'm off to dag out my eyes again with a spoon.
Why with a spoon?
If you hadn't grabbed my sword, we'd be back in Sherwood by now.
I grabbed your sword to prevent you from being killed.
Oh, really? Not as a wedding present for Sir Guy.
Oh, for the love of God. Shut the hell up!
They're about to be executed when...
Luckily, it's Hooded Monk Day in Nottingham.
I love Hooded Monk Day. Oh, come on, he's wearing his visor!
Data, we need a diversion now.
Now I have a forearm bomb. Ho, ho, ho.
Okay, that one was worth it.
And now, shenanigans.
And as usual, grabbing a woman by the wrist renders her incapable of... What? Hey! Hey! She's actually being useful! I take it back!
Okay, I understand Riker, Data, Worf, but why is Geordi such a good fighter here? He has no training in any sort of swordsmanship.
You know, I'm honestly surprised Geordi isn't running around chucking little bags at people and yelling, "Lightning bolt! Lightning bolt!"
Well, maybe everyone is just winning because this is on easy mode and everyone's doing good swordsmanship. No, the women are not allowed to use swords. So Geordi gets to kick ass, but not Counselor Troy. That kind of works. Maybe I'm not right to complain here.
I'll have you know I'm the greatest swordsman in all of Nottingham. There's something you should know. I'm not from Nottingham.
So Picard kills the girl and saves the guy. Wait, strike that. Reverse it.
It's good to be the king.
And in the aftermath, Q claims that this was Picard at his worst, and Vash says it's Picard at his best. Considering how much better the latter half of this episode is, I'm tending to agree with Vash. So they are all returned to the moment from which they were taken, except for Vash. Later in Picard's ready room, he meets up and finds out that Vash is now going to travel with Q as his companion. Apparently, Q has a TARDIS.
Can't be any worse than current Who.
We're going to have fun. I'm going to take her places no human has ever seen.
And then a forgettable season 1 episode in a spin-off, don't worry about it.
And so they kiss romantically and will never meet again. And that was Qpid. I find this a difficult episode to grade because on one hand it is remarkably silly and fun when it wants to be, but is amazingly dull building up to this point. It would not work without the setup, but perhaps the setup did not need to be so long and dull. Perhaps people acting more in character responding to Vash, rather than her being repeatedly told you don't matter.
And honestly, if you want to do medieval action, this really isn't it. The sword fighting is okay, but the archery is utter crap, and the costumes look like something you'd get off a Halloween rack. I mean, if you're gonna parody something, maybe parody it better. At least this is a decent comedy. But if what you're craving is actual medieval fantasy adventure, yeah, this ain't it.
And that pretty much sums up Qpid. And now for once I will have something in my life that is pure.
And now back to Rings of Power for the 3rd episode.
I did not say pure good.